All right, guys, welcome back to an extremely special international episode of the Dude Actually podcast. We are joined by my favorite director. His name, Jason Trost, aka Jatro. He's made like my favorite movies, and I could watch them a million times over, and I have. So it's such an honor. And dude, we are excited to talk about your new projects, The Waves of Madness, AFAR, everything. It's awesome to meet you, man. How you doing?
Good. Nice to meet you guys too.
Heck yeah. How's
Yeah.
how's
Sorry.
the how's life going? How you been?
Ah, busy. I'm just trying to keep going. As these movies, like, it takes you guys 60, 70 minutes to watch them. It takes me, a year or two to make them. And since I make them all, pretty much myself at this point, there's quite a bit of work. So yeah, I'm just keeping busy.
So
Just keeping my head down under.
you
And
make them all yourself, essentially.
virtually, yeah. Like I'll sometimes have people help me shoot them to a degree. Like we've gotten that down to about there might be about four people on set, including myself. But with AFAR, for instance, that has just been me completely. So that's been fun.
Dude, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, you
It-
have to because like you're not doing these for the money, so it's like you have to find a way where it makes sense and how to keep making them because if I were to hire someone, there goes my entire budget. So I have to kind of learn how to do everything myself.
True. Yeah, I mean, with AFAR especially, like going through the demo. First of all, what a neat way to market like the movie, like with that demo, like to use YouTube as a medium with those like different paths. That was pretty sick when I went through it.
Awesome. I'm glad that you enjoyed that and you could figure that out. I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work in the end because it's being built as a choose your own adventure horror like DVD. So, or I guess a Blu-ray. So I've been making it and how it's been written out is like to go through like menus and DVDs and stuff like that. And then I wanted to like, okay, nobody understands this unless I show it to them. How am I going to be able to show this to somebody to demo it? And with YouTube, they've got the end screens, but you have to play with it because you only have it's like you need 20 or 30 seconds at the end. They'll let you do those links at the end. So it's just trying to like, I had to adjust some certain things when making it to make all that work. And that was a fun little experiment. And then hopefully down the road, I'm going to be able to make it a Steam game. But, that's post Blu ray DVD first. Then we'll try to figure that out.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, that would be sick. Speaking of choose your own adventure, I got a signed Jatro Beats Off
Oh, right on.
Christmas. Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Dude, yeah, when seeing like afar after you made a book like this, like that just seems so perfect. Did you used to read like Goosebumps and like other choose your own adventures?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of those are the one I liked the most was the Find Your Fate ones, which were the Indiana Jones ones. I used to love
Yeah.
those. And then I recently picked up a few of those again, I guess like last year or something when I was coming up with the idea for the FP Choose Your Own Adventure. And I was like, oh, this is great. I love these. Like, I don't know, because I find a lot of people like you're battling for time now, and there's so many things that want your time. And like, whenever someone's like, read a book, and you're like, oh God, who has time for that? But then, like, with the Choose Your Own Adventure, it's like you can really put in like 20 minutes and get some damage done. Like you can pretty much get through an entire path, and that's kind of the idea, like with a far as well, to where the whole thing will take you probably 30 minutes to play, I guess. But there's like five different movies inside of there of content. Like there's lots of different endings, lots of different avenues, and if you want to get like the entire story of the world, you'd have to play it a bunch of times and do all the choices and see how it is. Or if you're like this sucks, there's only half an hour, it's over. So
True. Yeah, I guess it's like yeah, both best of both worlds. I love like roguelike video games or like where you have to do the game multiple different ways to get like all the lore. So like that's right up my alley.
I love that stuff too, as long as it's not like a 30-hour game. Like when it's
Yeah.
30-hour games, like try the new game plus. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Come on.
Dude, right? Like I don't need the secret boss.
I
Like I'm
barely
fine.
had I barely had the time to do this one, man.
Right.
So what are you in Australia for?
I live here. And as of 2 weeks from now, I'm officially an Australian citizen. So
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice. Do you
So
get a
are you from the US?
I am from the U.S., but my wife is Australian, and here I was, due to lots of circumstances, I was like, I actually prefer living here. So here I am.
Yeah.
nice. Do you get like a special perks when you become a citizen? Do you get like a wallaby? or like some
Yeah,
like a cave or something?
God, I wish. No, I just get the right to vote, and I think I get like pension. So I guess like our version of Social Security. Yep,
Nice.
that's still
That's
by the
good.
time I'm that age. So other than that, yeah, I mean, like the perks of being just like because I'm already a permanent resident here, and like our we've got a great healthcare system and things like that that are pretty nice. And like at the beginning of the pandemic, when I was like, if I get COVID, that's going to be extremely expensive in America. And then like it just doubles up, getting older and you start looking at the next 10 years of your life. You're like, man, I'm one bad operation or something away from like just my life being a living hell. Because in the film business, like to get your insurance, you have to be in like, a guild and you have to get union work and you have to get union hours. And it's a whole thing. And there's probably a lot of times you've seen people and you're like, God, why did they just tank their career and start doing these shitty movies? Oh, they needed their insurance hours. Got it.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Whoa. I never
Damn.
thought about that.
Yeah, that's like, that's a little bit of a deep cut, but yeah, you have to start thinking about that when you get older and you're like, oh man, I don't want to get trapped in that.
Wow. Dude, that just unlocks some information. That makes sense though. Yeah. Uh America sucks for healthcare. So that's awesome, dude. That's cool.
Depending on who you ask, right?
Yeah, yeah, depending on who you ask.
Well, and depending on who you are,
Yeah, true. That's true.
like, man,
Depends. Dude,
there's some good health care, but a lot of people have to pay for it or pay out of their
I have to
paycheck.
pay so much, dude, and I have a
Yeah.
corporate job.
Yeah.
It's like what? Give it to me.
Yeah, no, it's just wild. I couldn't understand it, so I ran away.
So how'd you meet your wife?
I
Did you?
met her at she was managing a film festival because she worked at a movie theater just down the street from where I am currently, and that was for the Australian like premiere of All Superheroes Must Die at a film festival called the Night of Horror, and met her there 12 years ago, and here we are.
Oh, so you guys have like a lot of shared interests then.
Yeah, I mean,
She's also a filmmaker?
oh yeah, I mean, if you've watched any of the FPs, she's Chai T.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the
okay. All right.
where we
Francis and the
went.
Waves of Madness, and yeah, she's the duck there. There you go. Yeah, that's her. And yeah, she's always there. She has more of a corporate job usually, but then like when I can steal her to be in something, I'm always happy.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, dude. That's awesome, man. Um, wow. It's honestly it feels so surreal to meet you after like when I first it was 2020, I think 2021, maybe 2022, but I was watching a podcast called The Yard, like big like four like big like YouTube streamers and they one of them offhand comment like mentioned the FP and the other friend laughed and they like talked about it for a second and I was like, "No way, this is a movie." And then I looked it up, and from then I showed all of our friends. Like I've made them watch it like 100 times, going through, watching the series. FP
The
Fest was
first
great.
time we watched it, he was like, "Dude, you're not gonna get this yet, but I'm Jatro and you're Betro." And I was like, "All right, man." And then Betro, and spoilers, Betro fucking passes immediately. And I'm
Immediately.
like, man,
Too
dude,
much coke in the locker room, man.
yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
it'll do it. That'll 187 you for sure, dude. But but yeah, it's awesome, and I've followed all the projects so far, and I kind of want for a second, I would love to talk a bit about the Waves of Madness because that's a wild concept.
Yeah, awesome. I love talking about Waves of Madness. That was one of my, I guess you could call it like a dream movie. I've always been thinking about doing a side-scrolling movie for can't even tell you how long, but it's always just been like that pipe dream of like, oh, that'd be really cool. I have no idea how to do that. And then as I did FP3 and 4 and I got more into the green screen, the post effects world, I was like, I think I actually know how I would do this. And then I just did it. I was like, oh, this will be easy enough. And then like, a year and a half later, a lot of work. Here we are. But yeah, I mean, God, where do you want to begin talking about Waves of Madness?
Dude,
There's
I
so
mean,
much.
my first question, honestly, I was gonna ask, like, did the idea for the movie concept come first, or the idea of wanting to do the like 2D side scroller? But you already answered that, so that's
Yeah,
that's
the
cool.
2D side scroller definitely came first, and then Waves of Madness, the idea came up. Like I've always liked Cthulhu and Lovecraft and all that stuff, but I was always like, how the hell do you do this with any sort of because we had no budget. Like, I made this movie for nothing, and like in the studio apartment upstairs somewhere I am right now. So I was like, God, how do we do this? And first, like, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a side-scrolling movie, and it was like after FP4. I remember FP4 just came out, and I was like, okay, let's start writing this side-scrolling movie. What's this gonna be? And like, I knew I wanted it to be like a Resident Evil, like kind of like action horror thing. And it
Hmm.
started as this wild, mega like Metal Slug adaptation, essentially. It was like horror Metal Slug, and I was like, this is awesome. And I was like, how the hell are you gonna make this? Like, I had not made a side-scrolling movie yet. Like, I have no idea. Like, and I just had to really dial it back because I had this whole giant outline and treatment, and I was like, this is awesome, but like, this is so much work. This is like a $200 million movie. I mean,
Damn.
I was ready to get into it, but I mean, I would have made it anyway. But I was just like, this is insane. Let's dial this back and make like another version. Perhaps we'll get there someday. And then when I was looking around, I was like, okay, well, Call of Cthulhu seems to be like the most sense if I was going to do like a Lovecraft story of like,
Hmm.
you know, that kind of like pared down sort of thing. And I was like, God, where did that take place? Where is Cthulhu imprisoned? And I went to the point on the, like they give you the coordinates of like the R'lyeh, and I was like, okay, that's actually a real place called the Spacecraft Cemetery. That's the point of inaccessibility, Point Nemo, where it's the furthest from a point in the ocean from any landmass in the world where they actually like dump decommissioned satellites and space stations and all this other stuff. And you start Googling into it, and I'm like, this is awesome, actually. This is a great idea. And then I just like, once I just started deep diving into that research, I slowly started coming up with the story of what this is going to be. I'm like, okay, well, if we're going to get out there, if it's like any good Resident Evil movie, it takes place in one night, or like like a video game rather. It takes place one night. It's one location, because if it's going to be a side scroller, you can't really cut and things. It has to be like a Metroidvania kind of
Hmm.
aspect. So I'm like, where's the one location? I'm like, okay, cruise ship. That makes sense. We're going to be out there in the middle of nowhere. Like, that checks out. It's got a little deep rising action to it. That's cool. And then I just kept plodding along with that. And the more and more I went into it, it just kind of started evolving from there. And I don't know. It was one of those things I would always like, I think drunkenly at parties, be like, yeah, I always want to make this. And we were like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then finally I sat down and like did it. And I was like, oh, wow. I mean, there's so many steps between here and there, but yeah, here we are.
Dude, I can only imagine the VFX to do like same with like FP3 and 4, like to do all of that just yourself. That's so much. Like it's so I can only imagine the like how much time the actual like editing is compared to like the filming and things like that. Like the complexity.
Post takes so much longer, but when you have less money like I do, like you're shooting something with 3 or 4 people, it affords you a lot more freedom to like take the time to make the movie, because when I'm in post, spending thousands of hours on these things, it's just my time. Like, I'm not like, it's not like, oh God, I have no money. And like when you're shooting on the day, it's so stressful because you're just kind of like, no matter how much you have it out of your head, like the money is just, the counter is just going, the clicker, because you're like,
Mm,
all these people are here. And like, oh God, I can't have them here for longer than this time because they're kind of here for free or helping me for a favor. They're here for cheap, and they're doing me a favor. Or like, God, if we're here for a little longer, I have to pay for a second dinner for everybody. And it just like, everything just starts like going in your mind. But when you're at home and you're just like, well, I could spend another day on this, whatever. It's just me. Like, it just, I don't know. And you kind of get a Zen moment. Like, I think during the post production for FP4 and Waves of Madness, or I guess because with Waves of Madness, I built all the backgrounds before we started shooting. So that way I could know what we were looking at when we were shooting, because we had to like stage it out properly.
nice.
Because, and I had to like, at that point I measured out, like, I went upstairs. I'm like, okay, we'll have 15 feet of usable space. So we'll just make each one of these panels like a panel in a video game, like the old side scrolling games, like, Abe's Odyssey and things, where it's just like a panel in each one.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that. And I can wrap my brain around. I'll make all these different panels. And whenever that each one of those panels is 15 feet. So that's like our take essentially. And we'll merge it together after that in post. But so yeah, I did all that. And I think, yeah, during post production on FP4 and building those sets, I watched every single Walking Dead episode that has ever been available in any way, all the series in the background. That was just my podcast. I was like,
Nice.
I need something that I can kind of like not really watch and still kind of understand what's going on, because I find there's about like 5 minutes of usable content in every episode of Walking Dead. And the rest of it's like, we got to talk about stuff and things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and like, I would always get like 1 or 2 really big laughs an episode, and I'm watching that in the background. So it just infinitely entertained me. And yeah, that got me through the thousands of hours of post.
Yeah, man, there's got to be something on in the background. It's like otherwise it's madness. It's waves of madness,
It is.
dude.
That would
No,
induce
it really
waves of
is.
madness.
I go back and forth, because sometimes I'll like be like, oh, I'm just gonna listen to some music, and I'm vibing here. And then like after you listen to like the same 20 albums over and over again, you start going on YouTube and you're just like, I need like a story, something I can't anticipate. But it's got
Yeah.
to be that magic thing because it can't be something I actually want to watch too much because then you stop working.
Yep.
Right. So
Yeah.
Walking Dead is perfect.
Something you don't really care about so much. Yeah. It's like I don't really, like this was never going to be my show, but it's interesting enough.
Yeah. Well, because I stopped watching Walking Dead like around I think season 9. Are you guys familiar with Walking Dead?
Yeah. Oh
Yeah, I've
yeah.
watched until they were at the prison and like
Right.
mom dies.
Yeah. Godspeed. I mean
Spoilers.
Yeah.
that's where you should stop. It never gets any better. But um, I checked out because I have this really big problem where it's like if I put in a lot of time on something, I'm just like I bitterly like have to finish it because I've invested so much time. And I think it was around season 9 when Rick left, and finally I was like, you know what, fuck it, I can't do this anymore. And I walked away, and then FP4, I was like, God, what am I gonna watch and post? I'm like, oh shit, there's like a million seasons more of Walking Dead. I guess now's the time. And it was all like on the streaming service Binge here, which is really funny. Like,
That's
yeah,
funny.
well, screw it. I have a Binge subscription for the next couple months. Let's do
Binge.
Wow. They know their audience. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
That's an insane thing to subscribe to. I love that.
Yeah.
Wait, so are there
And
other
I'll,
movie like channels
oh
and
yeah,
things that are
oh
like
yeah, there's
different?
great streaming services down. Yeah, of course, Binge obviously is a big one. I think there's one called Fetch, which I haven't really gotten into. There's one that Umbrella Entertainment they made up that they did FP and they did Waves of Madness. They have this one called Broly, which is awesome, and it has all these like crazy old genre things. It's like basically everything they release, like stuff like the FP, but then crazy Ozploitation stuff and all these other things. And it's free. It's just like it's an ad-based one where like you watch a commercial or something at the beginning and then you get a free movie. But yeah, if you have any kind of like IP adjusting device or something of
Mm.
that nature, and you can get a hold of that one's great. Like that's probably the best one because it's just like so many like weird, unique stuff. Like me as an American coming down here and like being like this wealth of Ozploitation stuff I never knew about. It's pretty wild. Like if you're into wild cinema, I really, really suggest it.
It sounds like we're gonna have to get an IP adjusting device.
Yeah, well, it's like I always thought America did like film the best. And then I see movies from other countries that are just like they just blow some of our procedures away and some of our
Oh my
ways of
god.
doing things.
Well, look, I mean, come on. We all grew up in America with like America's number one. Why would you leave? It's the best. And then like you start traveling around a little bit and you're like, I mean, I like it, but there's some other really cool stuff out there. And like that's happened to me when I started like because I started traveling the world quite young because my dad worked in the film business. I remember being like 10 and I was like in England and I was in Thailand. And I was like, wait a second, there's some cool stuff out there. And then I started going down that path. But yeah, I think movies in other countries aren't as corporate. I mean, they still have that to a degree, but like it hasn't been McDonald'sified as much as America has, I think. And
Yeah.
that's why there's some really cool stuff happening in other places. Like they'll take chances. Like they don't like the tech companies haven't bought everyone else out in the other countries. They don't like have to make $20 billion on every movie. So, and when you get to that point, it's like when you're making a movie for like I think I just read where it's like Jurassic World Dominion was the most expensive movie ever made after they got the tax receipts or something. It cost like $500 million to make. And like that cost 500 million.
That's
And
wild.
Yeah.
it's just like it gets to that point, but it's like when you're making a movie like that and you're trying to make a return on it, when you're like that basically means you have to make $1.5 billion before you even like break even.
Yeah.
How do you do like in order to do that, you have to try to make something for everyone. And as we know, when you do that, you're making someone for no one because you're not directly targeting anyone.
Yeah.
And
Damn.
When you lose a lot of the creative build that movies have.
there
They
is no
can't be
creative
too.
build at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not about that anymore. Like, and then like this is a legitimate conversation too. Like I know like when China upticked quite a bit with the box office, there's now okay, there's two mandates a lot of times if you're going in and making a corporate movie. I don't do this anymore, and I'm sure it's gotten even worse than I was in there years ago because I just stopped even trying to pitch because it's just a nightmare. But you basically get the point where it's like you're not writing a movie specifically for people who speak English because well the movie's going to make 80% of its money in China, so we're going to make something that they would like more. And then also now the big one is you have to write something so somebody who's not even watching will understand it. That's why you're like, why is this written like this and like written like I'm an idiot? And like it's because things are made with streaming now. The mandate is they want you to be able to understand it if you're in the kitchen or if you're on your phone or you're playing whatever, that you can still understand the movie. And like because of that, obviously, like you can't have nuance anymore. You can't be subtle. You can't be very creative or artistic because you basically just have to like tell people what's happening on screen. And that's why I was like, and it was fascinating, like watching this through The Walking Dead, circling back and seeing how the show kind of started out. And I was like, oh yeah, it's pretty cool. And then like you're like, what? I literally don't have to watch this at all. They're telling, why are they just telling me everything that they're saying and what they're doing on screen? And I'm like, oh, that's when the streaming thing took effect. That's interesting. Yeah.
That's wild. That like just there's just no heart at all with that. Like there's I feel like there's no passion or like I think what you said regarding like making something for everyone is making like nothing for like it's making something for no one. Like
Yeah.
it's not targeted. That's wild. I didn't think about that. And that's really things have changed so much.
It changed too much for me because when I was a kid growing up, you have these things like Terminator and RoboCop and all these sort of things, and it's like that's not for everyone. That's for those people, and those movies kicked ass because of it. And then by the time I got to the film business to actually like do something, no one wanted those movies anymore. And then it's like, well, I guess the only way I can kind of make things that inspired me is like to just go rogue and completely do it myself and completely target people like myself. And it's like I've just gotten to the point where I'm like, it's such a nightmare trying to figure out what other people want. And I'm like, do I even, all I know is how to make something that I want to see. And I just focus on that world. Or like, I want to make it. Like, if I haven't seen it before, I want to make it. And it's like, if it's something that I love that only I can make that I haven't seen, let's go. But I don't want to do what everyone else is doing now, which is like, I'm going to be a cover band. I'm going to make a watered down version of this thing I grew up on. It's like, that's just not, and that's like all these Star Wars projects, these other things to where it's just like, okay, it's so and so's cover band of that movie again
Yeah.
and again and again. And then like the level of success now as a filmmaker, you're like, okay, so the definition of making it is, let's say I break out and I make some crazy indie movie by myself, and like for some reason everyone likes it and it makes a bunch of money. My highest threshold for success is like, which Marvel or Star Wars movie do I get to make? That's it. That's the end of the road. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not really interested in doing that. So why am I going to build my life around it? And here I am, Waves of Madness. Woo!
Dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I mean it's clearly paid off too. Like I love what you've done in your projects, and like it hits the exact niche that I love. Like I you that how did you first come up with the idea for the FP? Like was it your love for DDR? Because I loved that my whole life.
I was just like an angsty teenage kid, and I played DDR and I made fun of it at first. And then I went and stepped on and played. I'm like, this is actually pretty fun. This is ridiculous. And then you can tell when you play it and like when you see people how stupid it looks. Like it's fun as hell, but like it objectively looks quite silly. And I grew up in this small little white trash town, which is the real FP, Fraser Park, which is only an hour north of Los Angeles. So it's pretty shocking that it's like, and it's full like, I don't know, whatever side of
Wow.
the line you're on, it might as well
Hmm.
be a red state, like deep in the South. And it's only an hour north of Los Angeles. So you get some crazy stuff up there. But the white ghetto kids up there and just the like just ghetto to like it's like you guys are aware that none of you are black. And just okay. And I just thought it was so
Yeah.
funny. I was like, when I was a teenager, I'm like, the best way to make fun of them is like, all right, they're these tough guys, but then like they pull out dance stands to fight each other. I'm like, that's hilarious to me. It demasculated them. And I thought it was hilarious. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll make that. And I showed it to people. It's crazy. And I'm like, all right, because I made a bunch of shorts and things back then. I was like, that was the one for whatever reason people responded to. So I went down that road. And then here we are, 4 movies and a book later.
Hey man, dude, you beat it off. That was
I definitely beat it off.
wild, dude. And all of the lingo, all of the lingo is just so good. I can't tell you how much that is in my vernacular. And I just say things to Reese. It's so funny. And that's like
Be
a
careful, man. You get some of that stuff in your vernacular in the wrong situation. It can be a bit touch and go.
that's true.
Been
That's
guilty of
true.
that myself, but
Gotta be a little
know your
careful.
audience.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I do not want to mess with the LWE in that. No, it's that was just it just blew my mind the first time watching it and being like, how is nobody around me seen this before? Like, how is this not huge? Like, this is it's just so funny and so
It
like on the
circles back
nose.
to what it's too particular and has too much of an opinion. It's also a very particular joke. My brand of humor is sarcastic, to where I like to just make fun of people to their face, but make them think I'm agreeing with them. and then everyone else in the room knows I'm joking, but the person, like that's kind of, if you know me, that's my sense of humor to a degree. And that's kind of what the FP is. That's making fun of directly. There's a certain sort of people that get really upset at the movie, but I'm not sure they know if they're being made fun of. And your average like white guy isn't used to being made fun of in movies, so they kind of take it in a very strange way. And it's a very strange concept. It's not for everyone, and I knew that making it. I was never trying to make it a super hit, but I'm glad at this point that there are people out there that enjoy it and understand it, and that's all I need.
Heck yeah, dude. It spread to Nebraska.
Awesome.
So
I mean,
that's what's up, dude.
I'm sure there's an FP in Nebraska. There's an FP everywhere.
There is an FP
That's
everywhere.
true. Yeah, there is an FP everywhere. If you don't think there's an FP where you are,
You're probably in the
you're
FP.
probably in the FP of your area.
There's an FP down south of Sydney called Wollongong, but they call it the Gong.
Okay.
The Gong.
Tell you what, it's the FP down there. If it's FP Beach Community, so it's a different vibe.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I've heard there's some weird like drug problems in Australia, but only in certain parts.
There's weird drug problems everywhere, right? But
Yeah, oh,
like,
definitely.
but for sure, yeah. I mean, there was something here that I wasn't, I guess because I'm getting older, but I wasn't aware of it. It's called maybe you guys know. It's like, you know what nangs are? They call it whipping nangs.
Uh-uh.
They're like, like those little cartridges you get when you like, I guess I think they're the cartridges you get for like blowing up, like when you suck in the
Oh,
gas.
are you talking about nitrous?
Yeah, it might be nitrous, but they call them nangs here, and I think they're a
Nangs.
little different. But anyway,
Gotcha.
whipping nangs. I think we're talking about the same thing, but they Australian lingo and vernacular. It's very like I'll still like I've been living here for over 5 years now, and someone will still drop some slang on me, and I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Yeah, so nangs. But there was a time with nangs that was really wild because we would just be walking around the pandemic, and all of a sudden there's just like hundreds of them on a street corner, just like empty ones out in the ground, like, and that would just happen all over.
Yeah.
What is going on? And then one time, because there's like in the apartment building we live in, there's some Airbnbs, and then one time, like somebody got this package like delivered to like an Airbnb person, like that was being obviously was doing drugs, had a package delivered, and it was just like a giant box full of nangs. And like a nang dealer like coming into town. What is going on? So yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's other stuff, but that's the one that hit my radar the most in the pandemic was the nangs.
Dude, you should make a movie about the Nang cartel.
The Nangs, dude. The Nangs.
The Australian Nang cartel, dude.
Yeah, they live in the Gong.
They live in the Gong.
Yeah, just whipping
Right in
Nangs.
itself,
man. What an Australian word too. Like phrase, whipping Nangs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think so. Oh, cool. We got 10 minutes left on this Zoom call, and then we'll just have to go into a different one to get the rest of the time.
Sure.
Cool. It just told me warning.
Yep.
But yeah, that's wild. Whipping Nangs. That sounds like a fruit.
It
sounds like a banana Laffy Taffy or something.
I don't know if that's what that sounds like.
I don't know.
But but it does sound like a fruit.
Oh gosh.
Wow, man.
So how did you guys find my? I'm always curious about the story of like when and how did you find my movies, because they're not widespread. So you had to be like a friend of a friend told you, or like you said, what was it, YouTube?
Yeah, it was a podcast. Yeah, called The Yard. It's a like really, I'd say like really prominent YouTubers and like streamers. They have 4 of them have a podcast, and yeah, they mentioned it on there. And it's like if I wasn't paying attention, I would have missed it. But a moment, it's like 2 rival gangs fighting using Dance Dance Revolution. I'm like, excuse me? But yeah, and then from there,
That's awesome.
FP Fest.
Yeah, I found out about it from him. So
yeah,
he's like, dude, you gotta watch this.
It's like somebody heard about it on YouTube or Reddit or a friend of a friend sort of things. And it could have been me in certain things, because like a lot of times I end up having to be like the publicist as well for these movies. Like what is happening right now with Waves of Madness, I'm essentially the publicist. So I've been like, going on Reddit and trying to like get, going into like Cthulhu subreddits and be like, hey man, I made this movie. And they're pretty responsive, because I used to like just actually put the trailer out there on things. And like initially when the trailer first came out for Waves of Madness, I put it on like, our movies or whatever on Reddit. It got so toxic and was such a negative response that I actually got banned from Reddit for inciting hate against myself.
Wow.
Yeah. I thought that was a pretty epic win.
Oh my goodness. That's power right there, dude. That's strong.
Goes to show you the state of the world and the internet out there, and you gotta like you have to be very dedicated, and like I found you have to pinpoint things. If you try to just slap it out there with everything else, my movies turn people mad. So gotta be careful with that kind of power.
That's true. That's true. That's wild. Getting banned for hate speech against yourself.
Yeah.
So do you have like personal favorite movies, and do you have like some reasoning
I,
behind what makes
look,
those or
I yeah, I mean, I obviously do, but it's I'm people ask me these a lot, and it's really tough because they fluctuate a lot. You know, you get older and you go back and watch something, and you're like, oh, yeah, I still like that, but I don't know about as much anymore. But I mean, there's a like the classic I'll always say is like the one where I knew I wanted to make movies when I saw it when I was 4, which was Terminator 2. Why that's my favorite? I mean, it's just awesome. Like, have action sequences ever matched Terminator 2? I don't know. It's the perfect merriment of practical and visual effects. It's just awesome. It's something like it, that was written what 30 plus years ago, and it's like that
Hmm.
reality of like now we're dealing with AI and everything. Like it's not bitch and chrome like robots with purple laser guns, but close enough.
yeah.
Yeah, God, I just like so many movies. Like in the pandemic, I guess like around, I think it was actually like a year or two ago, because physical media is dying out and they're trying to get rid of it because they don't want you to own anything, so they can keep
Hmm.
charging you for it forever with streaming, which sucks. So I was like, well, 4K Blu-ray is probably the best we're ever going to get. So I'm just going to go and buy. There was a big sale happening. I'm like, I'm just going to go buy like my 50 favorite movies on 4K Blu-ray, throw them in my drawer. If Skynet takes over and streaming dies and everything's gone, at least I have my 50 favorite movies. And then, long story short, I ended up with like 500. So that's why when like I talk about favorite movies, when I start snowballing, I'm like, oh yeah, and there's this one, and like we don't have enough
Yeah.
time on the podcast for me to talk about how many movies I love and why. But I guess like the other interesting question for me is like not many of those were made in the last 5 or 10 years. I will say that much. Like I think there is a certain magic that, not to say that like I'm not going to be the old man in the cloud and be like no good movies period come out anymore, but the frequency is far less.
Yeah.
And like I find it a lot rarer now that I'll watch a movie twice that comes out in like the last 5 or 10 years. Like I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's not like it used to be.
I
No.
can't remember the last movie I've watched twice that's come out. Decent.
Revenant.
Revenant, yeah.
That
That's
was
that's
one that
one
I
good one. I
watched.
guess Quentin Tarantino's got
Yeah,
some
but like,
bangers I could
but
watch.
But
like we
again,
Still
talk about
rare.
it's
movies, it's
sprinkled
like
in.
there might be like a movie a year. When it used to be
Right.
like I would go see movies two, 3 times in theaters, like on the reg. But
Yeah. Well,
now it's
I told my brother because he went to film school. My brother's a huge film guy. Fucking,
yeah.
he just that's his universe, you know. And
Mhm.
I asked him, I told him like I feel like movie theaters are just for opening nights now. Like big
Yeah.
titles that people just want to like throw popcorn around. I feel like the whole thing's dying.
They're more of a publicity thing at this point. It's kind
Yeah.
of just like, and that's why they want movies streaming 3 weeks later after the theatrical release, is because they don't have to spend money on 2 different promotional runs. They can just kind
Yeah.
of slap it all together in one. And but it's also hard because like at the same time, like I used to love the theatrical experience. I don't go that much anymore, but then they also gave me like a bitchin' 4K TV and sound system that I can put in my house, and I can watch it in 4K for I can own it for cheaper than I can go see it in the theater if I wait 3 weeks. And I can
Yeah.
press pause and go to the bathroom. And I don't have to deal with a bunch of people like spilling their popcorn and talking and doing, so it's like, I don't know. It's a they kind of outprice themselves, I think. They did it themselves.
Yeah.
Like,
I
you
agree.
took the price of movies and actually made it like it's the same amount. If like let's say movie theaters like all tickets were like $6, like the price it cost to like rent a new movie on VOD, I think they'd make gangbusters. They'd make 3 times as much money because everyone would go because it's cheaper and it's fun, it's experience. But like $20 to go see a movie at least, like come on.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah. It's in the concessions in a lot of places now are like full-blown restaurants in the
Yeah,
theaters. And
I
they're like
think
super expensive. It's just like a restaurant experience with something on. Yeah, I don't know. And it's a lot.
yeah, and they're not really giving you an experience that like I think is worth the price that they're paying on all those things. Like even when it was like these fancy restaurants and things and drinks, you're like, it's okay, but I could spend less money and make a way better dinner at home and have like
yeah.
a bottle of something or a great 6 pack of beer and
Yeah.
do that right. I don't know. It's just I
And I
do
can
think
pause it and go pee,
yeah,
dude.
Yeah,
yeah.
pausing and
And
going
people
pee on your own
and
time.
going to a friend's house with a good setup like that, or having people over, to me is kind of becoming the new movie theater, because you get that communal experience. People show up and they do it. It's just like, well, we can do this at home now, so and we
Yeah.
can curate who we're watching it with. So we have an audience of our good friends. They're all gonna,
Yeah.
treat this movie the right way, and we're gonna have a blast.
On that note, I think we should probably do some closing remarks.
Yeah, and we can
I
switch
feel like
over to
it'll go pretty
the other
well.
meeting.
Is there anything you want to let whoever might be watching or listening know? Anything you want to rep or anything coming up you want to
Oh
mention
yeah,
or
well, I
plug?
mean, please go out and watch The Waves of Madness however you can, whether that's renting it or buying it digital or getting the new fancy special edition Blu-ray by Umbrella. That's really cool, like that FP box set you guys got behind you.
Yeah, pop it up.
And yeah, because basically, if that does well for them, I'll basically be going straight into making a sequel for The Waves of Madness. And if you stayed for the credits, you saw the little bumper that teases what that'll be. And that'll be my version of Castlevania. So I'm really excited to do that one if I'm allowed. And yeah,
Heck,
and obviously I'm doing AFAR right now. That's my little experimental choose your own adventure horror movie. See how that goes. That's just, keep me busy until I can do Waves of Madness too.
heck yeah. Well,
Perfect, man.
all of the links for all of this will be down below. We're gonna go ahead and switch to the other meeting now. Get a little more fun on the Patreon if you're down for it,
Yeah, yeah.
Jatro.
Do
Heck
it.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you again. It means the goddamn world that you're on. It feels surreal. So shout out Jatro. Shout out you guys for watching. You guys are awesome. See you on the page.
Yep.
Thank you guys. It just means the world, like anyone even gives a shit and wants to talk to me or wants to hear me. So
Oh,
thank you.
dude. No, it's an honor.
Oh yeah, this has been the
I mean,
talk of the town
so
for
we're
the
at
last.
my place right now, and he's like, before we got on, he's like, dude, oh my God, shit, it's happening tonight. Like, he's like pacing a couple times back and forth. He's like, this looks like a good setup. And he was stoked, dude.
I was so stoked.
We both were, but he was, man.
I look. I yeah. We'll chat on
Heck
the
yeah.
next one.
Well,
Yeah.
sweet.
Move
See
on.
you guys in a second.
See you then.
Love you
See you
guys on the page.
then. See you.